All right, we're live. Hey
Right.
guys, I'm here with the Warmest Robot, and he is an INTP. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, Warmest Robot here. I do a podcast on the channel with the same name, and our whole thing is basically we are criticizing the type community and various typing systems. We also have a typing system of our own, and yeah, I guess it's more like a kind of a comedy podcast along with criticism. It's kind of our thing.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because well, I know Nina and Gabriel, and I believe we set up this interview before I even watched that other channel. But it was funny because you guys made a video that I was in, and a certain individual thought that I or other people wanted you to make that video. I
Yeah,
definitely, I definitely don't have the hands in MBTI community. I'm not even really subscribed to many MBTI channels. Like I'm subscribed to a handful of them. So yeah, I'm not associated. I just so
no,
happen
we did do
already.
this by ourselves.
Yeah. So, but anyways, it's definitely an interesting commentary. Um, so definitely check it out if you haven't already, and I have it linked in the description. Also, this is kind of a question that I ask everyone. How would you
Mhm.
describe your childhood?
Um, I'd definitely say it wasn't the most fun. Okay, that's very vague. It I was never very good socially. Like I didn't understand people or like why people were doing things. Yeah, I guess kind of like a I learned how to socialize later on in life. I think in about like kind of year 9 kind of thing. So about like kind of 16 years old, and I guess before then it's like being bad at socializing, and then after that point pretty good at socializing, and then um I guess what kind of stuff about childhood, if I might ask, like
So like when you were younger, like
mm,
when you were like really little, how would you
yeah.
describe like how you, like your personality and how you
Okay.
interacted with people?
Um, I think I always follow like a very rigid set of rules when I interact with people, and that's not very wasn't very good when I was a kid. As in because I didn't like have a bunch of rules developed at that point. So um, I guess how to say, I was very inquisitive. I was just kind of curious about people because I just didn't understand them. So I guess my whole thing as a kid was just kind of exploring things and trying to understand why they worked. That's people, that's objects, that's like kind of everything. That was kind of my whole thing. Um, it's not. It's yeah. I guess that kind of does sum up what I was like as a kid. Um, I would play like a lot of video games. Kind of just like make up fantasy worlds when I was a kid. Just that kind of normal stuff. I was
I
very
don't know if
quiet.
everybody makes up fantasy worlds actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I've actually interviewed quite a few people, and a lot of them don't, which I did when I was younger. I used to have
Oh,
a really large imagination, but there's been a few people that really didn't do that when they were younger.
oh, I
So
guess I'm wrong then. Well,
yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting to just see how different people are.
yeah.
Yeah, so like I know you already talked about around the age of 16, but how do you think that you kind of transitioned um, like into who you are today?
Okay, so this is gonna sound odd, but so when I was a kid, I was kind of bullied a whole lot, right? And that's not the odd bit, but I kind of use that as a way to understand kind of how people were working because I was just like a bunch of like patterns in conversation for me. It's just like if you say this, they will say like these sets of responses usually, or like it might depend on like maybe like the group atmosphere. But I was always really terrible at understanding that, so that wouldn't have been very useful information for me. But I think I kind of just got bullied until I figured out how to combat that situation through like kind of teasing them back. It's like the better joke kind of always wins. That's and I think that just turned into more socializing. And yeah.
And now you have a YouTube channel.
Now I have a YouTube channel about teasing people.
Yeah, I was also bullied as well, but not because of that. I was bullied because I was too quiet, and I used to cry a lot. So not enough. Not a lot has changed since then. But yeah.
I mean, I still miss social cues. Like I
Really?
still don't properly understand how to like talk to people properly.
Interesting. Do you think that you had a good amount of friends growing up, or what was that kind of social situation like?
I had a few friends when I was a small child. I think that was alright. Just like I think there was a guy, there was a girl. I've forgotten their names, but and when I went to school, I think that's kind of where it like I didn't really have any friends up until kind of like year 8 and 9. So I was kind of like alone for the most part, but it wasn't a huge issue.
So so you didn't really like hang out with people outside of school or anything up until that point? That's crazy.
I like just couldn't comprehend how to like actually talk to people properly because I didn't understand all the rules. So it's like I have to make rules for kind of everything that I do. That's I do mean everything. I mean like even just like normal stuff. Like let's say making a cup of tea, for example. I do have a set of rules of like how I do that.
So you're programmed like a robot.
Kind of.
Or you program yourself. You program yourself.
Well, it's but that's basically how I function. I do like kind of program myself to do things and how to do things. And it's usually based off of like cause and effect structures that I notice in reality.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Doesn't tend towards socializing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, so like since you've mentioned it, how would you program yourself to make a cup of tea? Like what does that look like?
Okay, let's see. So I think what I'd probably do is right, so I've like depending on the device that I'm using, so I guess like we've got like an electric kettle. So what I would do is I would the rule is like fill it up with water. Usually no matter what, because it's usually running low anyway. It's like fill it up with water. Then I guess I would go get 2 tea bags, get a mug, take the tags off of the tea bags, put the tea bags into the mug, chuck the kettle on. I kind of have it timed, so I kind of know about how much time I have to do other things. If I don't make a rule, I just won't do certain things. For a while, I kept leaving the lid on, like not on the thing. Sorry. So I have to make rules to do things like that. So I got to make sure I close the lid. Then obviously pour it in, but not to the very top, and then you pour some cold water in so you can actually drink it.
So that's really interesting. Also, a lot of people in the U.S. don't have electric tea kettles, by the way. I mean, I do, but a lot of people don't. So, because we're coffee gang in the U.S., which I guess Australia is also really into. They're big on coffee. You guys are really like.
We are pretty into coffee. I know I actually really like coffee a lot. I sort of just was using it to stay awake for a while, so I it's very easy for me to get addicted to coffee. So it is just it's very easy because I can just think faster. So as a consequence, I'll probably want to drink more coffee.
I do really like coffee. I also like tea. But it is interesting because I feel like I don't program anything in my life. Well, I bet I do, but I don't see it as programming. It
Mm,
is so interesting though, just to kind of see the difference because like my dad's actually an INTP,
mm,
so I'm very used to certain like personalities, and I get along super well with my dad.
yeah,
Um, but okay, I do have a question about like being an INTP and
yeah.
specifically. So when you're approaching like putting together an object, how do you do
Mm.
that?
Okay, so I guess for me it would kind of depend on certain factors. So if I kind of understand what the object should kind of look like as an end result, I could kind of piece it together. Let's say if it's like trying to think of something I would put together. Okay, like a piece of IKEA furniture, for example. I guess I kind of like I kind of know what all the objects should be doing. So like I would have a category for like the connecting pieces, and then I would have a category for like maybe the walls of whatever the thing it is that I'm building. And I guess I kind of just like assemble. It's like I assemble that in my mind, but not in like a physical sense. I can't imagine things physically as well. Like it's not that I can't do it, but I think it's more like it's like this piece goes here, this piece goes there, this piece goes there. It's just like a bunch of rules like that, and I kind of just like assemble it, kind of with the categories themselves. Um,
Interesting.
as a meta commentary, beforehand when I was explaining like how I make and tea, um, what I was basically expressing, I did realize it myself as I was doing it, but I was mainly expressing like because like filling up a kettle is a pattern, and then like I guess the major categories that would be in there would be things like kettle goes on, water goes in kettle. I guess things like that. Um, so I'm not sure if that may have been the best example, but
Yeah. Do you feel like when you put something together, do you feel like instructions are helpful for you?
no, I don't even use them.
Okay. That's
I
interesting.
think I just kind of like know what the pieces kind of are for. It seems kind of obvious to me, I guess, because it's like usually they're very obvious, like this piece should fit in there, just that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I guess of puzzles and stuff. I wouldn't be good at like a jigsaw puzzle. I'd be terrible at that. I can't see properly. um, but like because I can't see like the pieces that well. But let's say like a Rubik's cube, for example. That's a really good example of just like you just need to know the rules to do the cube, and you don't even need to look at it properly. So it's just like a bunch of very simple physical rules, and then you should know where the pieces are based on what you did. Right. It's I guess it's a little tricky to explain that kind of qualia, but
Yeah. So I haven't really asked this super recently with people in
mm,
interviews, but this is something that um I found very interesting. Do you think you have do you have an internal monologue, meaning do you have a voice that like
oh yeah,
says something in your mind?
yeah I do, yeah.
Okay.
Um, it sort
So
of like says things that represent the rules, and the rules themselves are like it's kind of like I just talk about the rules to myself.
okay, so you can hear like yourself in your mind.
Yeah, like constantly.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I found this out like in 2020, like February 2020, that
yeah.
most people do not have an internal monologue.
Oh.
Isn't that weird?
Huh. Um.
Or like a very like a high plurality of people don't have a internal monologue.
I guess it's like odd from my perspective, but I guess like not with the whole having like a bunch of different types thing. Like I'm sure different because different types will be set up in a different fashion. Potentially, I'm not necessarily that that is the literal cause, but potentially different setups will tend towards like maybe not having internal monologues or seeing things in a different fashion, like just different internal reference points.
I've seen a trend with certain personality types, but it hasn't been across the board. Like even within each type, there are people like it is. So the way that I've like learned to understand what internal monologues are, it's definitely on like a scale. And I don't know about you, but like I have an internal monologue, but I can also visualize like things, and also I have like an abstract monologue. Like I mean not monologue, but like I can like see things abstractly and also like very much visualize things in detail. But there's like a leveling degree of what people can think about, and then there's people that don't have an internal monologue and they also can't see things in their mind. So
Okay.
and that's called
I
aphantasia.
guess the main thing. Oh, aphantasia. Okay. I was gonna say, one of the things to consider is that not necessarily everyone is going to be typed correctly as well. And I
That's
would
true.
definitely offer like the same idea towards myself. Like the audience doesn't necessarily know if I am typed correctly.
Yeah, the audience
So
has
like
already tried to type you differently. If you look at the chat, I've like not
I
been looking at it
oh
too
wait,
much.
I just have it on the wrong thing. I haven't been able to see any of the messages.
Oh yeah, so you can look at the chat if you want.
Oh
Actually,
yeah, I
let's
had it
also
on
see
private
if
chat.
anybody has. Let's see if anybody has any questions. If you guys
Yeah.
have any questions, let us know. But yeah, so
I'm terrible at talking about myself, so if you've got like a specific question, I'm good to good to answer.
well, I guess kind of getting into like what would you say brings you the most joy in life?
I would say figuring out how things work. This would include myself, and then also debating. I think that is some of the most fun that I have, like debating ideas and that sort of thing. That is kind of the reason we have that YouTube channel. It's we've been doing it since I met Gabriel actually as well. So like Gabriel and I, we met at school, so we've been
How long have
friends
you
for
guys known each other?
9 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we were kind of doing that in school and just never stopped. I did lose friends over it, but I had like a group of friends where I would debate them constantly. At first they were kind of into it, and then it kind of just became unsustainable because I don't think everyone likes that kind of behavior.
Yeah. It definitely can be abrasive to certain people, but like I guess I like it. I'm used to it. But yeah, I think you would actually really like. I think I mentioned this to you, but I think you would like the um, meetup group that I have, and we talk about like all different topics. And like last week, we talked about like morality and ethics, which was cool.
Okay.
Um, it's just like
Yeah, no,
different.
morality and ethics is a fun topic.
Yeah, and we definitely had conflicting views in the group, and there was a lot of debate. So I think you would have liked that. Um, so
Yeah,
okay,
that does seem like fun.
let's see if anybody has any questions.
INTPs can be manipulated by guilt. Um. Yeah. No. Go. Yeah.
That's interesting that they said that.
I'd like to know why you think that. Not necessarily saying that INTPs cannot be manipulated by guilt, but what why necessarily the type specific?
Yeah.
Because I'd probably say that other types in general could be manipulated by guilt. Sorry, I know I'm probably not meant to be debating chat.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
It's kind of a
So
reflex.
yeah, no, I get it. So have you always lived in Australia, or were you
Yes.
okay? So you've lived here your whole life. Um,
Hmm.
I asked Gabriel the same question, but what was it like growing up in Australia, like your whole life?
Well, I grew up in a lot of different parts of Australia. So Western Australia, went down to Victoria and come to Queensland at this point. But I'd probably say kind of WA, that kind of area. That was very boring. That kind of place wasn't very exciting. Kind of just hot, arid. Um, Victoria, I'd probably say, hmm, I I'm not like a big fan of the culture, to be completely honest. Like, I just can't really get into any of the Australian culture.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess I'm not super familiar with Australian culture, but what do you mean by
okay,
that?
that would be things like football, sport, and stuff like that. I just can't really get into that. Um, what else? I guess there's actually one thing in school. I guess this would be worth mentioning. I can't comprehend idioms.
Hmm.
So like because it doesn't make any sense because it's not literally what they're saying.
Yeah. So,
It's like I can't think of a good one, but Bob's your uncle. There we go. It's like what do you mean? You just mean some kind of approval, I guess.
that's interesting. Um, that you kind of feel like, so you prefer like literal things rather than um,
Like metaphorical things or
yeah.
it's not that I don't like metaphorical. I was gonna say medical things. Metaphorical things. It's I'm not the best at like interpreting them. I kind of have to make a translation as to what they would mean. So it is like trickier. So I guess I would probably prefer things to be more literal,
Interesting.
just for ease of communication.
Yeah. Um, so okay, when it comes to like people around you, who do you think you interact with? Like, who do you feel like you gravitate the most towards personality wise?
Like do you mean like types or do you mean Oh, okay. So um like INTJs, like Gabriel for example. ISFJs. Most of my I guess a couple of my partners and friends have been ISFJs. I actually noticed that there's a bit of a pattern between like the kinds of people I'll date and then the kinds of people I'll generally be friends with. Like I'm not sure
Oh,
if that pattern is there for everyone else, but
so
I noticed there's
the
similarity for
same
myself.
type that you typed a certain individual.
Yeah.
Maybe he's single. I'm just kidding.
But INFPs, I think I can be friends. I can be friends with them. I'm not sure if it's sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable because I had a friend who was an INFP. So it it didn't go to. We would always kind of debate philosophical ideas and various like ideologies and stuff, and it generally wouldn't end very well. But I do kind of like it. I think it's fun for me. I'm not sure if it's fun for them. What other groups? Let's see. Um, I think the majority of my friends over my life have been ISFJs. To be specific, we have typed them with our system. Also, Gabriel knows of the people as well. So it's not just me going like, you know what, I reckon now ISFJs. I know I kind of like that group. It's not that kind of thing.
Yeah, you kind of looked back, or like you each typed this person, and you're not like. I mean, you notice the pattern after you typed them. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
like I said, I mean, you could put in a plea to be someone's friend, since the pattern looks like it's working there. Um. So okay. So, what personalities do you feel like you conflict with the most?
probably ESFJs. I'd say I'd say we wouldn't get along. Um, uh, ENFJs, I don't think that they would. I don't think it would be like a sustainable relationship. It's like I haven't got anything specific against either of those types, but I think it's more of a case that we're kind of trying to communicate about different things. It's it's like I kind of want to talk about a bunch of ideas, but they're not really as engaged in that kind of thing. at least based on my current experience. I'm not necessarily saying that this is all of them.
Yeah. That's
I have an
interesting.
I think ESFPs. I'm not sure if I would get along with that group. I know one of that group personally, but that person's not exactly stable, so I don't think it's anything to judge the group off of in terms of getting along with them. But
Interesting. Yeah, because I definitely have my own theories about, they're derived from Socionics, so I have my own theories about which personalities you probably would actually really get along with. But
I'm kind of curious.
So, it's actually, I need to make, I've been saying this for a long time, but I need to make a Socionics series. So I would say, and I know that like a lot of people, you may not know Socionics, but a lot of people in Socionics don't like to make the correlation like this, but I do for most people. I think if you're typed, depending on if you're typed correctly, but so you would be in Socionics probably an LII, so logical, intuitive, introvert.
Yep.
And there are certain relations that you have, and some of them might be kind of surprising for you. And what's interesting in Socionics, the ISFJ would be an SEI, sensing, ethical introvert, and that would be your activity partner in Socionics. So that is a fairly decent relation. I wouldn't say that it would be the best one, but it is a decent relation.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, it. If you ever want to, I can definitely talk with you about like that more. It's definitely a lot. It's a lot to get into.
Yeah, it's like a large subject sort of thing. Yeah, no, that sounds cool.
But yeah, so I it's a whole different system.
Sorry. Go
ahead.
I interrupted you. My bad.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I probably I've seen a pattern with like the kinds of people I'm friends with generally, but like I'm not very certain as to how true it actually is. Like I wouldn't put too much stock in it. Like at least the one that I've seen personally.
Yeah, I would.
I'm thinking quantity of people and like there could be a lot of circumstances here and
Yeah, I'm not really a proponent for saying like I'm not going to be the person to say that I don't know. I'll say in Myers-Briggs terms. So like all INTPs are going to get along with this certain type, or all INFJs are going to like ENFPs, or like I think it's kind of problematic to do that, because the thing is maybe you have a certain personality, and I personally think that you're born with that personality. But the people that are in your life, your like nurture, can definitely shift you in a way that maybe certain personalities wouldn't work well with you. And plus just people are different. Like even though like there are quite a few INTPs out there in theory, there's also so many variants of those INTPs. Like not all I mean, you're not going to really meet an INTP that's exactly the same or has had the same experiences.
Yeah.
So
well, I actually have a something to add to that actually, because there is another friend of mine that was an INTP. We're like similar in some aspects, but not other ones. He actually doesn't get along with like Gabriel, who is an INTJ. So contrary to what one might stereotypically think, they
in
would
Socionics you wouldn't say that. So that relation is not necessarily the most ideal relation, actually. But it works. It's just like my relation with an INFP. Like it works. Okay. Yeah. Like it's good, but it's not. Typically speaking, and I'm not saying I do have people that are INFPs in my life, but typically speaking, that's not going to be one of my better friends. So actually, it does, to me, it makes sense, actually. But you guys are also different and you have different upbringings than probably that person. Why do you think that person in particular didn't get along with Gabriel?
Oh, he just doesn't like arguing in the same way that I do. He just and even with myself, he was kind of into exploring ideas, because I was actually really good friends with him. He was kind of into exploring the ideas, but not really into like kind of debating whether or not the ideas make sense as much. And he would kind of rely more on how the ideas felt, but in a really archetypal way. Like a lot of ideas, and he would have like a kind of a broad feeling on them.
Interesting.
Whereas I don't really care about that as much. So I think that's why they didn't get along as well. Because he would Gabriel would criticize him, and then he kind of just wouldn't handle it properly. But if Gabriel criticizes me, it's like, yeah, let's keep going with this. This is great.
Yeah. Okay, so Lolita has been commenting several times. I'm seeing your comments, Lolita. Lolita
I
thinks
can't
that
see properly, so don't worry.
Oh, Lolita thinks you're an ENTP.
Okay.
Which I can see, actually. I would say if you're not an INTP, you're probably an ENTP. So the idea with these interviews, unless it's like like what's my type interview, it's not necessarily to try to type people in the interview.
Yeah.
So even if I do think someone is typed correctly, I don't know. But regardless, there have been people in the past that I have interviewed that I didn't think were typed correctly, but I still think that people deserve to be able to speak about what they think their personality type is. So that I mean, this is not directed towards you. This is directed towards Lolita. This is directed towards Lolita.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of really open to the whole like if you want to try and type me with whatever system you're using, fantastic. Because I kind of want to debate whether or not like which system makes sense, like which one has the most explanatory value. That is the kind of thing that I am into. That's kind of why I'm into that. Because I for me, like, these systems are like, it's not like an identity thing. It's just whichever system has the most explanatory value is the one I'm going to end up using. So if that isn't mine, or isn't like our groups, then fine. Like it's more just like whatever is the best idea that wins. It's kind of my thing. So.
Yeah, to me, actually,
so if someone wants to debate my type, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I personally am not saying that you're mistyped. That's not coming from me.
Oh,
but
no, it's all cool.
In a socionic sense, it actually would make a lot of sense why you and Gabriel are so close. If you were an ENTP. Because, like I said, I'm not saying like we just said with other personalities. It's not like a hard and fast rule for every person, but typically the relationship between like an INTP and INTJ, although it can be really good, I don't know as if it would be. Yeah, I mean, it could be really good, so I don't want to knock it.
It's like it's not a diss to question my type. Like it's all cool.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
So Lolita, I hope that satisfied your need to be acknowledged in that. I mean, I am seeing your comments.
I would actually agree with your thing of saying that I am in my element when I'm dealing with like NE and stuff, because that is just like the patterns in my environment.
Yeah.
I also like. I guess I'm not sure how you would define TI, but I guess for me, I am still functioning with like a bunch of rules, which I guess like I obviously can see my rules on my end, but they're obviously not there in reality, because that would kind of break a bunch of causality things.
Yeah. So how did you get into typology specifically?
Okay, so about a year ago, we kind of like found out about it, and we like all like Gabriel, Nina, and myself found out about it. We kind of just got interested in it, and kind of tried to figure out how it worked.
Interesting.
I guess it's like because it was explaining various like phenomena in like reality, it became interesting as a consequence.
That is something, I mean, I'm not saying you specifically, but that timeline in general is a very short timeline with typology.
Yeah.
I would say I would classify you guys as baby typologists, which I guess a lot of people online would be classified that way because there are other people. And I'm not saying that just because you have like a long history in typology, as in someone that has been doing typology for years. But the reason I say that is there's definitely, and I know that everybody doesn't have the same experience, but there's definitely a wave of like understanding. And I always say it is a running hypothesis. So you're going to have like, you're going to feel like you know stuff, and then you're going to be proven wrong, or like maybe it's definitely, I think a year personally, and this isn't just me, I can't speak for other people, I would have not created a YouTube channel in a year. But then again, I'm very slow to act in these regards because I would not feel like, okay, I guess it's like a competency, because the biggest thing is understanding the theory is definitely one thing, but like seeing it in real life and interacting with all of those personalities, I think at least, and again, at least for me, I think it has to be like, it takes time, not only like study, but time. So it's not only like a theoretical study of it, but also a overarching time that's involved in learning typology. So so stay skeptical, everyone. I'm just kidding.
Well, I would always say just definitely stay skeptical, like at all times. If I say something, do not take that as fact. No, you question me on that. I think that is the best philosophy of that, of anything really.
Yeah.
In terms of time, I guess I wouldn't. I personally wouldn't put necessarily a time frame on like learning things. Obviously, learning things take time, and developing systems take time, and all that. Like obviously, but I wouldn't put a set amount, just because the quality of information isn't necessarily like equal to the time, the information you've taken to get the information.
Oh yeah, no, I totally.
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, I got all the quality information. No.
So my thing is, it's okay. So what I'm saying is not in a theoretical stance. So I'm not saying like you study every single material out there. I'm talking about actual real life interactions with people. 1 year is like a very short period of time to like understand typology. And then, I mean, you can always like type people in the past, but and I'm not saying again, and this is not just towards you, this is towards like everybody watching, because I've seen a lot of people get into typology in a very early, like, 1 year is a substantial amount of time, but like I've even seen people that are like, they've known about it for a month, and then they like are like, ooh, I'm in it. People discount the in-person interaction with people. Like theoretical knowledge is one thing, and I think you definitely have to have a basis of theoretical knowledge and also like studying different things, but the actual in-person encounters, that's what to me takes time. If that makes sense.
It does have to, like with the interpersonal encounters, it does actually have to take time, obviously, because you have to physically do it.
Yeah.
But I guess like I don't think it's an issue to start a thing, and like if you're wrong, just make addendums. Like that kind of thing is fine. That is essentially how I function, but I function with that with everything. It's like I kind of can't not. But I guess for me, it's more like, what is the basis of their argument for like how the typology thing works? Like whatever their system whatever the system is that they're using and their line of reasoning, I think is the part I do think is important. Yeah. Someone's ability to type someone in reality, like out on the street or something, or like not out on the street, that would be kind of silly.
I mean, but like, I've done it before. Just joking.
But like when you
like have a booth and be like, come on here and I'm gonna type you. Like instead of like a fortune teller, you're like, I'm typing you today.
Instead of like
$5.
Instead of like a crystal ball, you have a little
Yeah.
chart of 16 personalities.
No, not even that. I wouldn't see. The thing is, I wouldn't have to have this crystal ball. I would just be like in my head and like, all right, let me see, let me look into my mind's eye. That actually would be a really like kind of funny skit video to do. Like,
yeah, it would be. I think it'd be right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
No. But yeah, so like it's not as though if I'm typing someone, I'm gonna get it right all the time. I'm probably gonna mess it up like tons.
Oh yeah, I don't.
I know.
I don't pretend to also know people's types all the time either.
Yeah. I guess that would come down to your familiarity of the system, along with the like exhibited traits that the system is trying to measure, and like you might have like a good system, but you might not necessarily be good at picking up on what the things are you're trying to measure.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. So, like, I think you can build a really good system. I think you can really understand a lot of theoretical knowledge and a lot of things. I'm not trying to, like, say that. So someone said, CL, I think that's how you pronounce it. An amount of time doesn't necessarily equate to understanding. Totally. I totally agree with that. But I'm just saying...
I don't think either of us were saying
yeah,
time.
that's not what I'm saying. It's like, that's why I'm saying, like, I know a lot of people that have spent a lot of time, like, just really researching things and, like, watching millions of videos, like, knowing all kinds of different stuff. But when it comes to actual application of the knowledge and seeing people in person and interacting, because ultimately, yes, it is a system, it is a theory, but when you don't have enough, like, in-person, like, interaction, and I'm not saying you don't, but I'm saying, especially when... it's specific people, but like I've seen it a lot where I guess this is a cautionary tale, not to you necessarily, but a cautionary tale to everyone. I was going to ask,
what do you think is the right amount?
I don't.
Because you're saying not enough time, but I'm curious as to what would you consider to be the right amount of time.
I don't think there is a right amount of time, but 1 year to me seems like a very short time.
Okay.
So it just depends. I don't know. It's not a super short time. I would say a month is definitely, a month is a very, like, I would say. Because I just don't think you can theoretically, I mean, maybe you can if that's all you're doing is, like, studying typology. Is, 24/7.
Kind of what we were doing for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, but again, so what I'm saying, time, it's hard to quantify it because it's, and maybe I should not have even brought that up, but like in-person interactions of like having multiple conversations with people in person, interacting in like smaller and larger groups. Yes, you could have like an event where you're like birthday party, concert.
You just kind of string this off from one like large event to the next.
Social, yeah. in person. You could do that, but I very much doubt that most people plan their lives that way, where they're social in person every single that's what I mean mostly.
You can. I do know people who do that. Not that those people are into typology, but I do know people who do that.
Yeah, well, I'm saying intentionally, like with the scope of typology. Obviously, there's a lot of people that interact in that way, but I'm saying like, yeah. So that's what I would caution, because I think theory is definitely something to know, and it's good to study. Like, you can only study it so far online. That's what I'm saying. And it's very difficult. I mean, not very difficult, but it's sometimes difficult for people to type people via the internet, even in videos.
I think that would have a lot to do with the actual system that you're using, though. Not you specifically. I mean, like well,
I'm saying as
the
a general
hypothetical
piece.
person in question. Yeah. So, like, our system works through the frequency of using certain categories. As a consequence, you could type someone via the internet, so long as they weren't reading a script. Like, you could type me right now and you via the same system, because this is just a conversation. As a consequence, it's not like pre-written. At least I don't know. I don't know about your end, but my end obviously isn't though.
Yes, as everyone knows on here, I pre-write everything. Just kidding. No,
you just predict the whole conversation.
No, I actually have I mean, I don't do that at all. So,
But as a consequence, like typing us at the moment would be easier with that kind of a system. So long as you have predefined things that you're trying to measure, you'll be able to do it.
So what would you personally measure in an interaction?
Right. So I guess I would be looking for what they're like the category of information that they're predominantly using, because that would be the most obvious. I guess like I'm not necessarily saying that I am the most familiar with every single particular kind of category in the system, like in terms of picking it up necessarily. Like I'm not claiming like maximum proficiency at that, but I think I'd be looking for like I think like well, I guess like at least one of the 8 kinds of like categories of information. So I guess it would be like there's talking about external things as though they have like as though they feel a thing. Let's say for example like this coffee is good, for example. I'm not very good at that kind of thing. I'm giving examples for things I'm just not that great at.
Is that something to measure? Are you?
Yeah, actually, you can measure what I'm the worst at. I'm terrible when it comes to like kind of categories of feelings. I have like 5, and they're very broad, and they will kind of encapsulate like a lot of aspects of my experience. So like, if I don't have any nuance with things like bad, for a good example, it's like for me, if something feels bad, it usually feels quite horrific, but there's no nuance in this. So like stubbing my toe could be the same as losing an arm in terms of not the pain, but like the emotional response.
Interesting.
I guess pain doesn't have a heaps of nuance either, but I can't. The difference I've noticed, the amount of physical objects I could reference, for example, is not as much for someone who has SI in a prominent position. So as an example, I have a partner at the moment, and she is an SI dominant user, and she can reference like okay, I was gonna say heaps more objects, but like let's say 50 objects to my 5. If I could reference like let's say 10 objects in a room, she could reference like 60 in quick succession, whereas I couldn't actually do that properly. In terms of feeling categories, I can't do that properly either. I guess in terms of like rules, I could kind of like rattle those off. Like with the kettle thing, I did just rattle off the pattern, and then like I also rattled off like the categories I was using for it.
Yeah, that's true.
That was probably a terrible explanation for how to do it.
I can relate. I can relate with that actually, because like I'm known for like when I walk around, especially like outside. Anybody that has ever been with me in person will know this. I am very like. It's almost like everything around me is blurry. And not because I have astigmatism, which I do, but like it's actually like I just don't see certain things, and like someone could walk past me and I just wouldn't see them.
That is common if you have SE in the last position. Like if it is in the last position, if that isn't an experience you kind of like could comprehend, you probably do not have that.
Oh yeah, it's like, so I do have like one of my friends is an ESTP, and he's very different than that.
Yeah.
Very doesn't like, he notices everything. Like a lot of people I know, especially like my mom is an ISFP, and she notices things too. Like she'll be like, we'll be walking down the street and she'll be like, oh, that guy was hot, and I'm like, I didn't see him. Like didn't notice him. Literally didn't see him. So like even in a case where I like maybe someone would be attractive, it's like it doesn't matter. I don't discriminate. Like like I like have blinders on. And I also don't respond to my name either in public, because there's so many people named Emily. So I'm just like so yeah. So I can understand the whole object thing.
I think your last one is always a good example because you would be the worst at it no matter what. Like obviously, like I guess looking for what someone is the worst at in like terms of like the function stack is probably the easiest way to type someone. At least like kind of like you can get one thing right, I guess, in that kind of thing.
Yeah. I guess I have like a very, I don't know. My approach to typing people, I don't know if it can really be measured. Which I don't know. Like I'm not moving definitions around and like trying to
you don't have to have your definitions
be very fluid. I want this person to be an INFp, so I'm gonna like move the definition over here. That isn't what I'm doing, but it is hard. It's hard to I don't know. I feel like for me, I work backwards a lot. Mm-hmm. So again, I work through a lot of lenses with especially Socionics, which I am annoying because like I've told people that I'm going to do Socionics, but I feel like so I don't know. I feel like there's like a weight on my shoulders and I want to do it right, and I don't want to like do people wrong, and I like but I do narrow I basically have all of the types in my head. And I will narrow it down. So I work backwards a lot of times. So I'll eliminate types.
Oh, okay. So you kind of just ruling types out kind of thing.
But it's because of patterns that I've observed in people too. And that's where it's like kind of hard to say like how I do it. But again, it's not
I presume your patterns are internal reference points, so it would be more difficult to express them.
Not all of them are internal reference points, I would say. Again, it's not like a certain individual.
I wasn't meaning that in that fashion.
No, I know you weren't.
I was more thinking along the lines of like... No. What he was doing was treating internal reference point as though it is reality rather than as a framework of which you want to comprehend information. Yeah. That's what he was doing. That was the problem.
Okay, I'm just doing a bad job of explaining it because I have helped people in person and online type people.
Yeah.
But I'm very bad at explaining how I do it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do have a method. It's just like anyways, enough about that. So, okay. I think, let's see. Someone asked earlier why INTPs are quiet.
I can't speak for all of them, but in terms of myself, I'm quiet because I don't understand the rules in order to engage with the other person. Because like how the person like kind of feels to me just isn't a terrible way to judge what they do, and I only kind of see patterns after they've occurred. Like a pattern needs to play out, so a cause and effect structure has to happen before I can like utilize that kind of information because I can't make them up myself. But obviously, I technically do make them myself. It's just that I would not be able to utilize the information until after it has occurred. So I can't really predict things properly. And if you don't know the rules in order to interact with someone, the best thing you can do is probably just to be quiet.
That's so interesting because I don't ever personally approach someone and be like, what's the rule for approaching them? I'm just like, let me just approach these people.
I'm thinking about the rules constantly.
Yeah, I don't think that way. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I when I was not even that long ago, before like I kind of got into typology, I was trying to talk to this person. So I was trying to predict how a conversation would go because I wanted to be prepared. Because I did have this rule that I have to kind of like, I want to get things right kind of first shot. I have since foregone this rule because it tends towards crazy behavior of just not doing things or like getting stressed out about things you literally don't know about. So I was trying to predict it, but because there were no patterns to predict with, I couldn't do anything. So I was just kind of freaking out, going like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle the situation. But yeah, it's just like I kind of don't try to predict things anymore in that fashion. Like not with patterns, because the pattern hasn't occurred yet.
It would be very interesting to see what you're like on, like, how would you describe yourself on a first date when you go out with someone that you've never met before?
Right. So I think okay. The kind of behavior that I tend to exhibit is I'm generally pretty nervous. I have had practice, so I actually have a bunch of rules. I have developed a bunch of rules just through trial and error, and I'm generally nervous. I can't really avoid that part, but I guess I try to build rapport. I guess a bit. I don't really do that as much anymore. A recent date I went on, I just kind of didn't try to build rapport, and that worked way better.
Like on the date or before the date, you tried to build rapport?
On the date, I didn't like. I used to try that, but I no longer do that.
In what way do you try to build rapport?
Okay, so I would kind of try and figure out the rules that the person is using, not in like a more, not that they are using rules, but I'm pretending as though that they are using rules so that I can use that to function.
I would have a lot of fun hanging out with you in a group because I mean, personally, I don't use rules at all.
It's
and just
kind of rules and patterns. When this pattern occurs, do this rule. That's kind of how I function. Like in a social situation. Because if I did the opposite way around, I'd be crazy. It's like, act wantonly.
Did you know that was going to happen?
No. But I can't react properly physically in interviews.
Yeah.
Because for me, physical reality kind of like goes away a bit when I'm like doing stuff like this. Like when I'm doing the podcast, for example, the same thing happens. I'm in like a haze of like kind of categories and patterns with like a general feeling of being a bit annoyed at what someone said. It's kind of like that's how I do the podcast. That is my experience. And in this situation, it's just like a bunch of rules of how to talk and then a bunch of like patterns. And the feeling's like, yeah, this is pretty good. But yeah, so I guess I would try to figure out the kind of overarching rules that the person is probably adhering to. And then like I wouldn't break my own rules, obviously, because it'd be the equivalent of breaking my own ethics. So let's say if someone's like, I kind of like I'm trying to think of something like unethical. Let's insert random unethical behavior, I guess. So I like doing that, and I'd be like, maybe this is not like a good scenario. So I'm not going to build rapport regardless, or like try and adhere to their rules or anything. But I'll try and figure them out so I can communicate with them. So let's say if they like teasing people, for example, and I kind of figure out that they are into that, then I will obviously engage with them on that level. Probably tell them about like some of the things I've done. It's like, hey, I managed to get like me and a friend managed to get like a joke running for this person for like 6 years.
Oh my gosh.
He kind of walked it into it himself. It was kind of on him.
What was it?
I don't think I can talk about that.
Okay.
It's just like not that's not all right.
Yeah.
But it's like the main kind of thing he kept like kind of not answering it properly. So it's like, do you think that this is good behavior? And be like, well, like I know I'm not meant to think that's good behavior. It's like that's how you get teased. I guess what else? Let's see. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of like, because everything I do is based off of a rule. Like for example, when to engage people in certain behaviors is done by a set of rules. So like unless certain criteria is met, I cannot engage in certain behavior, for example.
looks like Lolita's mad at you.
Oh, wow.
Or both of us.
I'm out. This is the most obvious ENTP I've ever seen on YouTube. MBTI community. Wait, what? That sentence didn't make proper sense. Okay. Mute the sound and watch. So mute me, right? And then just kind of look at my movements, because that's a great way to type someone, right? Just how they move.
Yeah. I'm not.
Sorry, I'm attacking your audience now.
It's it's kind of going back to our good friends' videos where people type. When I say good friends, I'm saying this in a likes to type
friends
people,
in quote.
Likes to type people via their face.
I was kind of excited for this interview because I wanted him to type me by my face.
He did, so maybe he will watch it later, or maybe he is now, but we have not seen him.
Oh, that would be... I think he's kind of disengaged from us in general. So probably nothing will come of it, but if it does, we obviously...
Yeah.
Welcome. I think I dropped out, or one of us dropped out.
Yeah, you did drop
Oh,
out.
okay.
For a second. Oh, Darren said, so if someone has Tourette's, what would they type based on their movements? Again, you should not be typing people based on their physical movements, because again, these things can be behavioral as well. I mean, like,
if they have a neurological problem or just like something like that.
I do think it is a little bit more challenging to type someone that has certain neurological issues, but that doesn't mean that it's like completely against. I mean, like, you can't do it. It's just it is a little bit more challenging than like just, I guess, your base person, which most people do have.
Yeah, I'd probably say like in our system, for example. It's because it's just based off of the kind of information that they're utilizing in the most pardon me, I had to indigestion. In the most like a frequency of the kind of information that they're utilizing. Because it is that, it would only be an issue typing them if they had something that prevented you from communicating.
Yeah.
So like if they're lobotomized, you can't do it.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
If they're mute or can't like write either, then
yeah, I think it's what I mean by more challenging. Like, there are people that maybe are a little bit more challenging, but it doesn't mean you can't type them.
Yeah, well, there'll be degrees of difficulty as well.
Oh my gosh, Lolita, why do you have to like question everybody's type in every single video?
You should come to our channel, Lolita.
It's fine.
You would love us.
Subscribe to Warmest Robot. You're gonna love
Yeah, do that.
No, I don't know if you will, but you should. You should definitely.
We can fight each other in the comments.
Yeah. But anyways, we have been talking for over an hour at this point. So, what are some closing remarks that you have?
Some what?
Closing remarks. What would you like to say before we get going?
I guess it's been an interesting interview. I mean, never done anything like this before, so it's been pretty cool. It's not really that different to the podcast. So for me, it's I'm just kind of doing the same thing.
Except for you have people that are watching you in real time. So
I thought you were gonna say well, except that you have people watching you.
No, you guys have quite a bit of people watching you on your channel. Like, yeah, you guys have really good views on your channel. So
yeah, it is going pretty well. But yeah, this has been a very fun interview. It's been really good. I guess I probably would clarify I am an INTP, but of a certain subtype. So at least in our system. I actually have forgotten which subtype because I can't think properly.
Well, yeah, so basically they do have their own system called rational typology, which is Myers-Briggs, but you're typing in a very particular way, right?
Well, okay, I wouldn't call it specifically Myers-Briggs, but it does get at
But it's derived
like a
from
similar
Myers-Briggs.
concept. Yeah, it's like we've derived some parts, but like it's like we're trying to get at like a similar concept, not necessarily using their definitions. So bear that in mind.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah, you guys. I mean, if everybody subscribed to the Warmest Robot, which I'm assuming that I would say at least half of the people that are watching are probably not subscribed to you, which maybe they are. I don't know. But if even I think you guys. I don't know how many people you have. Now.
Probably like 48 or 9. Right?
Let's see. You have 43. So if we get 7 more people to subscribe to your channel, then you will be at 50. So
I guess I know a certain somebody wouldn't debate us because we're not popular enough. So if everyone did subscribe, maybe he would.
No, I don't think he debates people in general.
That sucks.
Yeah, I've asked him to come on and he did not.
Guess he's
Not
just
saying
too
that not saying that I'm popular on here, but yeah.
I think it's more of a sign of weakness than anything else.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, everyone, and
thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Also, thank you for doing it live. And like I said, I don't really do this with like everyone except for like if I have had an interaction with someone, I will like I've talked to them face to face. I will offer a live interview. So. But yeah, so you guys should have a good day. And again, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the Warmest Robot. Check out, I guess I should link your other channel, like the Rational Typology channel as well.
Yeah, because it would give like context for like what I've been saying as well.
Yeah, I know I've linked it in Gabriel's and Nina's videos, but I can go ahead and link that as well.
Oh, thanks.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, this has been pretty cool.
But yeah. Bye, guys.
Yeah.